Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the invocation led by Councilmember Singh, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Smith. Please rise as you are able.
Please bow your head if that is your tradition. As we gather here today, let us take a moment to reflect on the importance of this meeting and the work we are about to undertake. We come from different walks of life with diverse beliefs and perspectives. Yet we share a common, genuine desire to create a positive impact on our communities. May we approach our discussions with open hearts and open minds, seeking common ground and embracing our differences as sources of strength and enrichment. Let it be so.
Please face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Johnson, would you please call roll?
Councilwoman Fugit.
Here.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Here.
Councilwoman Parker.
Here.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Here.
Vice Mayor Alberto.
Here.
Councilwoman Singh.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Testerman.
Here.
And Councilman Thomas. All members present, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, is there a motion on to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, are there any items to be withdrawn? Are there any items to be postponed? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request a 2-week postponement of item 11Q. It's the CAC agreement. I think there needs to be some amendments, and they'd rather bring a clean version to council in 2 weeks.
Okay, motion made to postpone item 11Q for 2 weeks. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other items to be postponed? Councilmember Smith, your light's still on. Thank you. Are there any items requested to be added by motion? Is there a motion on the consent item?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I got a few things to share with you in my mayor's report. First, I want to thank everyone who was able to come out to celebrate the groundbreaking of our multi-use stadium this morning. It was really a wonderful event, and I know you share my excitement about this and this community's excitement about redevelopment and reinvestment in a part of town that has so much history. And as I've said since day one, I would always consider supporting this stadium if the benefits to the public outweighed the cost to the public. And I'm very confident that that will be the case. So big thank you to this council for your support of this project, and to the many members of our staff who worked tirelessly on bringing it to this day of groundbreaking. This is going to create hundreds of jobs and is attracting additional investments in the area, and as a wonderful connector to the East Knoxville community. I also want to take a moment tonight to remind everyone that Juneteenth celebrations are happening across the city this weekend, and including the Martin Luther King Commemorative Commission Parade and Juneteenth celebration at 10 a.m. Monday morning. So instead of the brisk winter weather of January, we'll have the warmer weather of Juneteenth. So I hope some of you all can come out. The parade will step off at Chilhowie Park, head west on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, and will end with a celebration at Dr. Walter E. Hardy Park. City offices are closed. As you know, it's a city holiday, but many city staffers will be taking part in the parade, and council members, you're all welcome to walk in the parade with us. And just around the corner, the city is once again hosting the USA Cycling Pro Road Championship. In fact, the 4-day event is coming up June 22nd through 25th. There will be hundreds of cyclists, and spectators will converge on Knoxville for the nationally televised races. So whether you're a cycling enthusiast or not, this is a fun, family-friendly atmosphere, so please come on downtown and cheer on the athletes. Keep in mind there will be road closures, and you can find the course maps and all the information you need on Visit Knoxville's website. And a big thank you to Public Service and Police Department for all the hard work in making that event possible. And Fire Department too. Chief Sharp, you were looking, I know that you all play a role in that as well. Thank you. Speaking of chiefs, I want to acknowledge that today is the 1-year anniversary from Chief Noel's first day as our police chief. I know that I speak on behalf of many members of our community and council to just say that you're off to a great start, and we're so glad you're our police chief. So congratulations on 1 year. And a shorter anniversary, I want to acknowledge our new executive director of the Police Advisory Review Committee, who's here with us this evening, Jared Kroom, if you could raise your hand. He started yesterday, so he's brand new as executive director of Park, but he has served as a member of the committee for 6 years. So he understands the mission of Park and is now getting up to speed to be an amazing executive director of that important body. So thank you for joining the city, and we're looking forward to your leadership in that important role. Quick reminder about our rules of decorum. Those who wish to speak either to a specific agenda item or during public forum should sign up with our city recorder ahead of time. Please do not use profanity, and when speaking to specific agenda items, please stay on topic. Those who fail to adhere to those rules may be ruled out of order and asked to step away from the podium. For those who are listening, please note that you may not disrupt a public meeting from the audience. Those who do may be asked to leave. I appreciate in advance everyone's respect for these rules. And that does it for my mayor's report. Vice Mayor Roberto, and then Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize that former 2nd District Representative Dwayne Grieve is here. I know he has an agenda item later, but just wanted to recognize that he's here and welcome him. Also, just wanted to remind everyone on council, but also the public at large, that council is having a workshop on the form-based district this upcoming Thursday, or next Thursday, June 22nd at 5 o'clock in the main assembly room here at the City County Building. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, last night there's a new professional basketball champion, but we have champions in our midst. And I wanted to give a shout out to Fulton High School. Young men won the AAA championship of the state, and it's the 4th title so far. And I wanted to have some of them here, but it didn't work out. But I still wanted to congratulate them along with Coach Jody Wright and Principal Seth Smith, and one of the players, Tyler Lee, was the Class AAA tournament MVP. So congratulations and go Falcons.
Yeah, congratulations, Fulton Falcons. Thanks for mentioning that. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of additional announcements regarding Juneteenth weekend celebration events. On Friday, the 16th at 6 o'clock at the Beck Center, the Tennessee Black Caucus will be hosting a town hall meeting hosted by State Representative Sam McKenzie. Then on Saturday, the 17th at 10 a.m., there will be a celebration and dedication of the 25th anniversary of the Alex Haley statue, and that will be at the site of the statue there at the entrance of Morningside Park. And then on Sunday, the 18th, from 10 to 4 p.m. at the Botanical Gardens, there'll be a Juneteenth celebration hosted by Rooted East. There'll be vendors, music, a lot of different activities, and again, that's a free event. And then Monday, the 19th, the Beck Center from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. will be hosting a special heritage exhibit, and that is free, and everyone is invited to attend. And the mayor's already mentioned the MLK Juneteenth march/parade, and again, hope everyone will attend. There will also be a party at Hardy Park after the march, where they'll have vendors, food, music, and just family entertainment. And so hope that everyone will take a moment to give some thought to what this celebration and this anniversary in Juneteenth means, not just here locally, but nationally across our state, and take a moment to participate. And if nothing else, please visit the Beck Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights on, we'll move on to the next agenda item.
8A is a resolution confirming the appointment of Linda Gay Blank to the City Pension Board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9A is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 2, and Chapter 6, Article 6, Sections 6-137, 6-140, 6-145, 6-152, 6-153, and Article 7, Section 6-181, and Chapter 13, Article 1, Sections 13-5, Article 4, Sections 13-15, 13-145, 13-146, 13-147, and 13-148 of the Knoxville City Code to reflect the transfer of duties from the Director of Plans Review and Building Inspections to the Director of Public Service, and to amend the definitions of codes, officials, and Director of Public Service and Director of Plans Review and Building Inspections.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, I just want to thank you for your support of this on first reading and hopefully support on second reading. This is, again, a continuation of our efforts to not only improve efficiencies for people reporting codes enforcement issues in conjunction with public service crews. It's a natural fit. This also will take one duty off of the plans reviews and inspection teams so they can also address their workload, which, as we know, is considerable. So thank you for your support of this. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9B is an ordinance to approve and adopt the fiscal years 2024-2029 Knoxville Capital Improvements Program, including the fiscal year 2024 capital improvements budget. City of Knoxville applicant, all districts.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 8-1.
11A is a resolution expressing support of the Protecting Community Television Act of the 118th United States Congress to clarify that franchise fees are only monetary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11B is a resolution to effect annexation of a parcel of land situated in the 9th Civil District of Knox County, Tennessee, to be within Ward 25, City Block 25916 of the City of Knoxville, Tennessee, abutting the eastern right-of-way of Dresser Road, being approximately 5.29 acres, known as all of Tax Map 122, Insert O, Group J, Parcel 002.01, this day known as 2920 Dresser Road, and to approve a plan of service for said area.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11C is a resolution to effect annexation of a parcel of land situated in the 6th Civil District of Knox County, Tennessee, to be within Ward 47, City Block 47665 of the City of Knoxville, Tennessee, abutting the eastern right-of-way of Sabre Drive, being approximately 0.64 acres, known as all of Tax Map 120, Insert N, Group D, Parcel 031.00, this day known as 7624 Sabre Drive, and to approve a plan of service for said area.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Vice Mayor Roberta.
Just one thing, wanted to say welcome to the city. Thank you.
Welcome to the city, indeed. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11D is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Knoxville's Community Development Corporation to provide administrative services and planning support to assist in redevelopment of underutilized properties and support the city's key development priorities for an amount not to exceed $300,000 for a 2-year term of the agreement.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11E is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the contract with East Tennessee Pipeline LLC for the Fort Dickerson Park Site Utilities Project, increasing the contract amount by $199,787.50 for a new contract total of $681,347.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute all documents on behalf of the city of Knoxville necessary to release a previously recorded 20-foot wide stormwater facilities easement that has been found by city engineering to be unnecessary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11G is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subgrantee agreement with Interfaith Health Center to provide an amount not to exceed $25,000 in CARES Act Supplemental Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funding for mental health and substance abuse services for low and moderate income individuals within the corporate limits of Knoxville as part of the city's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, this item and the next several following it are all housing-related needs in our community, and housing and neighborhood development staff and director Kevin DeBose are here if you have any questions. Any questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subgrantee agreement with Knox County Community Action Committee to provide an amount not to exceed $450,000 in community development block grant funding to support the emergency and minor home repair program.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11I is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Catholic Charities of East Tennessee to provide an amount not to exceed $27,304 in 2023-2024 homeless general funds and to provide emergency shelter services through its Samaritan Place.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11J is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subgrantee agreement with Salvation Army Knoxville Area Command to provide an amount not to exceed $33,000 in CARES Act Supplemental Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funds to provide public services and homeless services at its Joy D. Baker Center.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11K is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to award amount not to exceed $300,000 from the Affordable Rental Development Fund to Knoxville's Housing Development Corporation, an instrumentality of Knoxville's Community Development Corporation, for the development of 10 affordable rental housing units to be located on Ben-Hur Avenue, Chestnut Street, and Selma Avenue as more specifically described herein.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember McKenzie.
Yes, Mayor. Could Mr. DuBose or someone, one of the deputy chiefs, maybe just talk a little bit about this?
Mr. DuBose, or if you're the best person to speak to this, if you could. And Ben Bentley, if you want to join us as well, in case there are questions as pertains to KCDC's partnership in this. Mr. DuBose.
Kevin DuBose, Housing and Neighborhood Development. Brought Ben if you have some more detailed questions, but as you know, as a part of our trust fund, we have a great incentive for affordable housing development that provides $30,000 a door for affordable housing. And this is 10 units, additional housing that KCDC has brought forward that we're participating in. And Ben, you want to add anything to that?
Just briefly, out of a number of community processes we heard from families, not only was there a need for larger bedroom size units, but also in many cases those are appropriate in the context of a neighborhood, a house with a yard. So that's what we're trying to produce here. It was direct feedback we received through several public processes that are going to create mainly 4 and 5 bedroom units.
Thank you. Yeah, something that we definitely need in our communities and across the city. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a second amendment to the cooperation agreement between the City of Knoxville and Knoxville's Community Development Corporation as required by the United States Housing Act of 1937, as amended to include the 5 Points infill project to list the KCDC's housing inventory shown on Exhibit A.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11M is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subgrantee agreement with the East Tennessee Community Design Center to provide an amount not to exceed $25,000 in community development block grant funding for conceptual design and technical assistance for approximately 6 community improvement projects.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11N is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant from the Federal Transit Administration and the Tennessee Department of Transportation to provide funding in the amount of $7,634,279 to Knoxville Area Transit for Formula Urbanized Area Transit Grant Assistance for fiscal year 2023 with a city match of $848,255.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve has been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11O is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant from the Federal Transit Administration and the Tennessee Department of Transportation in the amount of $793,801 for the Knoxville Area Transit and Formula Bus and Bus Facilities Capital Grant Assistance for fiscal year 2023 with a city match of $88,200 for the total project amount of $882,001.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11P is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant from the from the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration to provide funding in the total amount of $7,500,000 to Knoxville Area Transit for congestion mitigation and air quality improvement grant assistance with a city match of up to $1,500,000 to purchase electric bus en route overhead charging infrastructure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
11R is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with SCU Bus Lines LLC to provide transportation services to participants in various programs sponsored by the City of Knoxville Parks and Recreation Department for the total contract amount not to exceed $50,000 per year.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, as you are aware, our Parks and Rec Department provides a lot of safe recreational opportunities for kids throughout the summer, but it's only helpful if they can get there. So this agenda item before you helps with transportation. I did also want to share that as of today, we have more than 600 children registered for summer camps at the 10 community centers. All of our city pools are open. And we're also excited to have kicked off Kidderific events, which are free family events Wednesdays from 10 to 1. Last week was in Fountain City Park. Tomorrow is Chilhowie Park, and it's the Touch a Truck one, which is one of the most popular. So anyhow, I'm really grateful for all the work that our Parks and Rec team does to serve so many kids, especially in the summer. Good, healthy, very affordable recreational activities, and transportation is part of it. So thank you for council's support of this. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12A is an ordinance amending sections 4-78, 4-85, and 4-95 of Chapter 4 of the Knoxville City Code so as to set fines for sales to underage persons, clarifying where remedial plans are delivered, and establish a process to appeal.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Vice Mayor Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate and let our chair of Beer Board know how much I appreciate this coming. I think making it so that we have a fine for a first violation is something that's been long overdue, and I really want to let her know how much I appreciate her taking this opportunity to do that. I think increasing our fines will only help us in addressing underage service, and so I really do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12B is an ordinance amending Chapter 17, Article 2, Division 4, Section 17-98 of the Knoxville City Code, giving authority to municipal enforcement officers in the Neighborhood Codes Enforcement Division to tow and impound any vehicle in violation of city code on public property.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone here or one of the deputy chiefs that could speak to what the rule is on how long a vehicle has to be sitting in one place before it is deemed to be abandoned?
I think is Chad Weth here? Mr. Weth, if you could come to the podium and address this question, please.
Chad Weth, City Public Service Director. I think that question varies depending on the location of the vehicle. Mr. Brace might be able to chime in too, but if it's something that is an immediate emergency need, it can be less than 24 hours, or we give them time if we can contact the owner to tow the vehicle. This is something that we're moving to get neighborhood codes, take a little bit off Chief and KPD's plate. Neighborhood codes already tows and impounds vehicles on private property, but this allows them to do that on public property.
Very quickly, typically vehicles are inspected. There's a notification placed on the vehicle, oftentimes a sticker, has about a 7-day report back in where they come back out after 7 days. If there's no action taken, and at that point, the city has the legal right to remove that vehicle. Obviously, if there's an immediate health and safety issue on the right-of-way, the police department can be engaged. This action does not negate KPD's, their immediate ability to take action for health and safety or codes enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Weth? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12C is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code Appendix B zoning code, Article 11, off-street parking, to clarify when recalculation of parking is required, to remove the 50% rule, which creates an undue burden on redevelopment in areas of the city with existing lower property values, and to remove Article 11.1.c, City of Knoxville applicant all districts.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, these proposed changes are part of our ongoing commitment to making development services more efficient, more predictable, and more fair or fairer. So I know this goal is important to you all and to all members who are trying of our community who are trying to redevelop and develop new housing and commercial properties. So this is one of several items you've already considered and approved, and I hope you'll approve this one, and there'll be more coming your way in the months ahead. Oh, we have a speaker signed up for this. 2 speakers. First is Kent Minot. Is Kent Minot present? Okay, he's not here. Next is Joyce Feld. Ms. Feld, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Feld, 1540 Aguila Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919, and I'm here tonight as president of Scenic Knoxville. The current parking ordinance was enacted in 2017. Minimum and maximum required parking was reduced from previous standards, and for the first time, a comprehensive set of landscaping standards was included. During the 1.5-year process of writing and vetting the ordinance, Scenic Knoxville was very involved with the Planning Commission staff in developing the landscaping standards. A few months ago, Director Ahrens contacted me and said there was a desire to remove the 50% rule regarding property renovation because it created an undue burden on redevelopment in areas of the city with existing lower property values. He asked if Scenic Knoxville was willing to collaborate on writing these amendments. I want to say that Scenic Knoxville greatly appreciated being invited to the table on this initiative, and the result is the amendments before you tonight. Frankly, we thought these amendments would pass through the process with barely a whimper, but several planning commissioners expressed concern at the meeting that while the burden of meeting many landscaping standards for properties with lower property values would be lessened, it would also be alleviated for properties where meeting the standards would not be an undue hardship. More than one commissioner expressed the hope that City Council might be able to resolve this dilemma. To be clear, Scenic Knoxville does not oppose offering relief to properties with lower property values in parts of the city where redevelopment is lagging and might be stymied by these requirements. On the other hand, we would like to see these standards applied to properties and in parts of the city where they do not pose an untenable burden. A green city is a healthy city. Indeed, the city has embarked on implementing an urban forest master plan and is seeking more ways to get trees in the ground. While it's true that certain conditions, like enlarging an existing parking area beyond 10,000 square feet, can trigger certain landscaping requirements, the city is filled with enormous parking lots belonging to big box stores and grocery stores that would be highly unlikely to be enlarged during a renovation. And therefore, new landscaping standards would not be triggered. They would be allowed to remain as is. We wish we had a neat solution to this conundrum to suggest to you at this time, but I'm afraid we don't. We do hope, though, that you would be willing to explore ways to solve this problem so that the original intent of the parking ordinance can be fulfilled as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that concludes people signed up to speak to this agenda item. Any further questions or discussion? Vice Mayor Roberto, then Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got some questions for Director Ahrens. As you're making your way down, my understanding of the parking ordinance was that this was really put in place so that we could maybe try to avoid having large, almost seas of asphalt for parking lots. So I guess my first question for you is, I understand what you're doing and you're trying to make sure that properties that have lesser total value are able to redevelop just like ones with a higher level. And I understand the disparity you're trying to address there, but are we losing sight of the overall goal, which was to not have seas of asphalt here?
Mr. Ahrens? That's a bit of a poetic question.
Peter Ahrens, Director of Plans Review and Building Inspections. I don't know the answer to your question. I know that there has been, in my recollection, one sea of asphalt that has been remediated, and that's the western side of West Town Mall when Tesla went in and Dick's Clothing and Sporting Goods. The net result is a couple of interior islands were added. I will say, with the proposal, we're essentially forcing everybody to install perimeter landscaping as soon as they hit the threshold of 10,000 square feet.
Vice Mayor Roberto, if I could, since it's not a technical question, I would say that I and this administration are very committed to making Knoxville as green as it can be, and encouraging that through urban forestry master planning, through the tree bank, and other efforts that this council has supported. At the same time, I am also very committed to facilitating walkable communities and equitable policies, so it's not a burden to redevelop properties in a lower income part of town relative to a higher income part of town. So that's what this is. I mean, there's no perfect one way to satisfy all those things in a purist manner. So this is a path forward that we think satisfies the needs of equitable development as well as keeping Knoxville green.
And I appreciate that, Mayor, and I support those goals as well. And I understand the intent here with this, with being equitable. I guess the question I had is, looking at the big picture, we were trying to prevent something from continuing, and it seems like, and I agree 100% that we need to make sure we're dealing with this in an equitable way so everyone can develop, no matter what the value of the property is. And I understand the disparity that you're talking about with values, but is there a different way to approach this that doesn't, encourage the poetic description as seas of asphalt, I guess?
I don't know. I will say I don't have the capacity, my team doesn't have the capacity to reevaluate. I think it's important to also recognize that another aspect, as we were thinking about this coming before you, is just about every existing parking lot has to go to BZA to get variances. Structurally, they might have too many entrances. They might be too close to the intersection. I'm talking about your stuff, Tom. And those are, we bring this before you because we see variance requests come back and to the BZA repeatedly because the design rules have changed in 2017, and it's more than just landscape. It's how they are. There's setbacks that were not in place before, and so in order to reuse an existing parking lot, if you're going to invest the money, folks are forced to go to BZA.
Well, and I've got like 20 seconds, so and I appreciate that information about BZA and that there's enough of a struggle that people are having to come to BZA. My question would be, what size are those properties that are coming to BZA? And is there some room for thinking about, a property size that would be big enough or large enough that we should not allow them out of the 50% rule because we're trying to prevent, again, these seas of asphalt?
We see properties of all sizes. We see the smaller properties on Bearden Place. We see large church parking lots that have an existing parking lot that they're renovating, and in the course of that project, they have to push their parking lot back 25 feet. And that's a sizable difference, and it changes the whole functionality of that parking lot. So they go to BZA and get variances. I don't know. We see all sizes of parking lots come to BZA.
Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah. Mr. Aarons, don't go away in case you get called on. I have stood in the parking lot with both folks who've bought businesses or commercial properties in my district, and I've stood there and coordinated and mediated meetings with engineering because all of these things are triggered and no one wants to make that kind of investment in some of these properties and walking distance from my house. It's just the equitableness of that, okay? And so Ms. Feld and I had some conversation this afternoon while I was getting ready to come down here. Wheels are turning and I'm crunching it out in my head trying to figure out, okay, what's another way to approach this? When you start talking about size of the building or a big box store versus something small, I can think of two big box, one large shopping center, a couple of different big box places that are vacant, blighted. People are complaining to us constantly because there's camping there, there's blight, there's trash. The communities are, begging people to come and reinvest in these properties. And so those are big box. They have large parking lots. But what the neighborhoods are asking, and I've got one in mind that's out Asheville Highway and one on Broadway that I can think of. And the neighborhood honestly just wants something there. And we can't get anything. We had, I was working with the chamber, talking with them about a business that was going to come to one of these in my district. And then as soon as conversations started happening about change of zoning, i.e. it's going to trigger some of these things, the landlord property owner's like, nope, don't want you. Don't want to change a use. Only going to put back in here what came out of here because it's going to trigger all these things. So I'm not even going to talk to them. And I'm not talking things that are vacant. I listened to a recent BZA meeting, and someone, I'm gonna be vague here. They referred to redevelopment of a property. They referred to the property as blighted and vacant. I believe when one tenant leaves and some months have transpired, maybe a year before the next tenant comes in, I'm not going to call that vacant and abandoned. I'm talking, dozens and 10 plus years vacant properties that the community really wants occupied. And so the square footage thing and ruling out where you're saying small parcels versus big box, that didn't seem to work. You can try and tie dollar value to square footage. I'm not sure that's going to work. And then there was another thought, but the other thing is section 11 point, hold on a second, it's on the other sheet here. Talking about the variances, the parking standards in section 11.2, hold on. Yeah, 11.2 of the parking regulations, they don't work for some of the small parcels. And so one of the examples in my district is a recently closed, next to Yeehaw, is a recently closed assisted living. And so now that's going to be housing. So they had to come and get 3 variances regarding the parking lot. And that's actually a new facility. So it's a fairly new facility, and it's turned over because one business left and housing's coming in, and it triggered all these variances. So, and actually what we're voting on tonight only touches 11.1, not even 11.2. So I'm not opposed to landscaping. It's just that we have all these parcels, large and small, and the mom and pop businesses are really strangleholded by this. And I know community development has helped some of those businesses with facade grants, and the businesses did not have the finances to do the things that were required by this. And the comments were, we have to address this. And that was back like 2017, 18, 19. And so here we are, 4 years later, and we have a solution on the table. And I'm not saying, we have a first reading and a second reading. I am happy to spend some time and crunch it out and see if we can come up with something better or tweak it before we get to a second reading. But, we have some properties that just are languishing, and people are not going to invest this kind of money in these areas.
Thank you. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. And some of Councilwoman Ryder's comments spoke to some of the questions that I have, but where my thinking is, and it's a question for you, Director Ahrens, but are there any concerns that in an effort to try to spur development through this type of change, that we will end up with lower quality developments in our lower income communities?
I don't think so. I would say no.
And lower quality meaning that developments are able to move forward without the landscaping requirements, and we run the risk of this sea of concrete, and we're particularly seems to be targeting low-income communities.
I don't think that. My personal opinion is that would not be the case, because we're still going to require the perimeter landscaping. We're still going to require, it's essentially what we're doing is we're recognizing existing parking that was designed, and Tom can attest, when you design parking, you maximize, you use every square inch. Recognizing that if you have to redesign with a smaller box because of new setbacks, it creates an undue hardship. I just don't, in my opinion, I don't see it creating lesser quality development.
Well, along the lines of what Councilman Ryder had raised, what efforts have we adopted as a city to try to incentivize this development that would incorporate these standards? And have we been successful?
Ms. Parker, I don't think I think that's not Mr. Aaron's field of expertise. You're familiar
Very
with
good
the
point.
incentives that we have as part of our economic development team. Workforce housing, affordable housing, sustainability, jobs. It's all up there on our website. And I would, well, if I have some comments to add to answer some of your concerns, but I don't want to take your time. So if you have more questions.
No, well, it's interesting because, we've called on Director Ahrens to address this issue. But also wondering, has there been opportunity for a larger conversation where we're not just looking at enforcement, but we're looking at ways to incentivize, we're looking at ways to incentivize enforcement and not just, remove
Sure.
regulations so we don't have to worry about enforcement.
So I saw two things happening. One, disincentivizing development, and also an abundance of BZA variances. And so in our efforts to remove a regulatory hurdle, we also coordinated with Scenic Knoxville to make sure that we maximized aesthetic beauty and aesthetic requirements. So I feel like what we're presenting is kind of the best of both worlds. Neither one is perfect. But
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
it's a compromise on both sides.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Thomas is next, and then we'll go to Ms. Fugit.
Yes, just to comment a little bit on those lines too, as I'm sitting here thinking. We don't want this to be burdensome on certain areas of town or people without the means, and it did occur to me that one of the things we might look at is the city to help the people who were burdened by this by some kind of incentive program or something like that, where people who couldn't afford to landscape properly, they would get help from the city to do it. So that's a thought going through my mind. I did have a question for Ms. Fells. Ms. Fells, you represent Scenic Knoxville, and to a large degree, you've been the community's watchdog for your organization has been the community's watchdog for certain issues like this. You have discussions with Mr. Ahrens, and I guess what I'm struggling with is there another way? I'm reluctant to kind of remove regulations that were so well intentioned and were needed. On the other hand, I'm hearing, I guess, unforeseen consequences. I would like for there to be another way where we can do both. We definitely need to beautify the city as far as aesthetics, but also heat reduction. One of the most miserable experiences you can have is try to get out on a summer day and go shopping and be in one of these asphalt deserts, But again, on the other hand, we want to give it a fair shake to people who don't have means. So I guess after I've kind of made some comments, is there another way, or would you be willing to work for another way that would kind of maybe balance these interests?
I don't have another way, but I would be willing to work to find another way for to come up with a compromise here. I mean, I wish I had something to say to you like, look, we could do it this way, but I don't. I I would like to just say that as far as creating walkable communities, as you said, you have to have shade. People don't walk around a community in 94-degree heat without the shade from trees. They just don't. So I think that they're important in many, many ways. I mean, they benefit the environment. I could stand up here and list 25 benefits of trees besides just the aesthetics, but I won't do that because you all probably know that already. But I do not have an answer to your question, and I was hoping you folks would try to work on one.
Is it fair to say you're not completely satisfied with removing these regulations?
I'm not satisfied in removing them for properties where it would not be an undue burden to fulfill them. I mean, I understand that we need development and redevelopment. I understand that perhaps some of these regulations have made it harder for that to happen. So, we're caught between a rock and a hard place, and I don't know how to solve it. But I know there are certain properties where people could come in, do the redevelopment, and fulfill the landscaping requirements, and I hate to not see that happen.
I wasn't necessarily expecting a solution. I appreciate an honest sharing of your thoughts, which was what I was after. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas, just wanted to add that, certainly we're committed again to keeping, trying to make our city as green as possible. To me, this proposal is the compromise, and that's why we've reached out to Scenic Knoxville, Ms. Feld, before we even brought it to council. And if we come up with further solutions that can be brought back to council going forward. And so this, to me, I hope, this passed Planning Commission 12-1, its first reading, and I think it reflects an adjustment, knowing that the revisions that council adopted back in 2017 did have some unintended consequences. We're not walking back all those things. We're just having an adjustment for the sake of equity. And living in a community where you have vacant properties for, as Ms. Ryder said, 10 plus years, in many cases, it's not a choice between a green, a redevelopment with lots of landscaping and a redevelopment without landscaping. It's continued blight or redevelopment with just perimeter landscaping. I mean, there are some guardrails here, so there still will be some landscaping, but just at these lower value properties, if we have this level of landscaping required, they won't be redeveloped at all at this juncture. But that doesn't mean we can't come up with other ideas in the future. I personally have walked, as I'm sure you have too, on areas where we have done our streetscapes, and it is cooler and it's lovely, and those also cost millions of dollars. So, I'm all for more streetscapes, more plantings of trees on public spaces, and considering, adaptations to reflect realities of redevelopment challenges at the same time. Council Member Fugit.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say I intend to support this. I don't want perfect to be the enemy of better. And I think there are guardrails, as the mayor said, about landscaping. But I do know that for the last 4 years, we've talked about redevelopment along corridors, redevelopment, these big empty gaps. And that's not good. I almost think it's better, for me, it's better to get those redeveloped, back having vibrancy in the community and having services and businesses in a community than to continue to leave it where financially people just aren't going to do it. I mean, I think the incentive is taking away a barrier to investment. I agree. I think we can always talk about it, but we often on this council are dealing with rules and regulations that are made with the best intent. And then sometimes they have an unintended consequence. And I think this is a tweak and a compromise at trying to get at some of that. And I appreciate Ms. Feld's concern about what are the developments that could afford to do it. I just am not sure I know how you define that right now, but I think we can keep working on that, and it would encourage us to, but in the meantime, I don't want us to stifle any development by continuing to wait on the perfect.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's really clear that we're not talking about landscaping entirely. We're talking about adding or removing driveways, curbs, entrances, islands in the middle of them. So this is expensive concrete and paving work. So when a small mom and pop type business on Broadway, I had one example was there was a coaching service for youth. Okay, it was a great business. They came into a building, but because it was a change of use, which Ms. Feld and I talked about this, there's some changes in what we're voting on tonight to give staff discretion on requiring the changes when it's a change in use. So it was a retail operation, but if it's coaching of youth, an indoor soccer thing, it's not retail anymore. So they were going to be required to change the driveways on the Broadway side, the side street side, put in new sidewalks, new curbs, tear out the entire lower parking lot. This is not landscaping. So that business had to leave. And it was really sad because he'd already spent money setting up in there because he didn't know any better. But the landlord was like, I'm not paying for this. So he's got to go. And now it's a different type of retail operation. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to applaud Mr. Aaron's. You've done something that I would love to see more of, which is recognizing where there are development barriers and where there are variance requests, and you've lined those up and tried to solve it. So I would, encourage as many of these as possible. With that said, we got to look at this with scrutiny, and this is new to me, so I'm wrestling through it with complexity, and I value your input on this. I don't hear this as a development barrier as much in my district as the engineering requirements that are part of redeveloping a property. It's not to say they don't exist, or I just haven't heard this as like the deal breaker for some of these circumstances. But Mr. Aarons, if you could, this is not about removing landscaping per se, but I think you clarified something for me in that thinking today, that this is structural requirements driven by landscaping requirements. Is that fair to say?
It's twofold, yes.
Yeah.
The landscaping requirements do determine setbacks, which are greater under the current code than what has historically been approved and what's being proposed. What was your other question?
That was just it, that this is not kind of parking or landscaping. One drives the other to be reconfigured, and that's expensive and costly. There are other things that require parking changes, such as curb cuts, et cetera, but the landscaping requirements are what dictate a lot of these structural changes. Is that?
They do dictate some of them, yes.
Okay. That was my only question. I guess just a macro level view. Recode's only been a few years old. I wrestle with the balance between it being long enough to see whether this is really stifling things or if we're already...
This didn't change with Recode. These were established in 2017.
Excuse me. Sorry. Even still.
Okay.
Whether this is actually stifling some of that development or whether we are unpacking regulations that we're going to regret. And so I think this is a good compromise. I do like the idea, somebody brought up the master tree canopy plan. I think that's not going to solve everything, but neither of these individually, but I think we can use that plan to overcome discretionary changes. So I'm not fully supportive of this at the moment, but I'll support it at least for this reading because I think I, for one, need to do some more homework on this. But I genuinely appreciate the creativity of seeing what's blocking development, seeing what's being varied a lot and bringing it forward for a change. So kudos to you for that.
Vice Mayor Roberta.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Aaron's, if these changes are implemented, are we going to see less landscaping as a result, or more larger parking lots, or are you anticipating not seeing those things and just seeing more redevelopment in different parts of the city?
I would anticipate we see more landscaping as a result of more development. I don't think anybody wants to build big parking lots, except for maybe Chick-fil-A. Large parking lots, they will, if they're expanded well, I don't anticipate seeing more large parking lots. That's my opinion.
Okay. And then when folks are coming to BZA because they're having difficulty making this work, what are they asking? What is the barrier that they're hitting? What's happening?
Existing conditions.
And by existing conditions, do you mean their use is going to change, or that's going to trigger this, or what are we talking about there?
Oh, okay. If there's a flower shop that decides to become a business office, it's change of use, it's recalculated, they're investing more than 50%. There's examples of you have to eliminate a driveway, you have to move a driveway further away from the from the intersection. You have to push your existing parking lot back further away from the right-of-way. And so there's a lot of those structural items that get costly.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, the biggest problem that they're running into when they're needing to go to BZA for relief is that they're proposing to change the use of the property, and that's triggering these the 50% rule, if you will. I mean, was there any thought to addressing the change of use provision then and leaving everything else in place?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. Well, and I recognize this is first reading, and I know you and I had tried to talk beforehand, so I'm sorry that we're having to do it right now, but I want to continue those conversations. It is first reading, so I'll support this on first reading, but I need some more time to talk about it, and we'll see how things pan out in second reading. But thank you.
Councilmember Roger.
Mr. Ahrens, is there something in the red line version, what we're voting on, that addresses change of use? Like for engineering staff? I just want to be clear because I said that and I thought that, and I'm trying to find it here.
11.1.A.5 talks about required parking will be recalculated with a change of use or a new addition. If 11.1B1 talks about if you expand your existing parking lot, existing legal parking may be continued and maintained, and then subsection A, with a change of use or a new addition. When existing parking exceeds the maximum number of spaces permitted, one landscape parking island must be provided between every 10 parking spaces. That's an area that is I'll say a greater burden on the tenant. It's over and above what the regular landscaping portion requires. The regular landscaping portion requires an interior island every 15 parking spaces. We worked with Scenic Knoxville and recognized, hey, if they've got extra, they should be able to put extra interior islands, which adds landscaping and trees and reduces the heat islands. And
Which
so,
is not as terribly as expensive as removing a driveway. Adding an island in an existing parking space, maybe, might be less expensive.
it's less of a redesign and more of a where do we want to remove a space. That's part of our concessions is if you're going to have excessive parking, you'll have to add some interior islands.
Okay. For the example in my district where they had to ask for variances, increase the maximum number of driveways from 1 to 2 for a lot frontage. So they were required to remove a driveway because they have a lot frontage of less than 150 feet. So demo a driveway and replace it with more curb. Decrease the minimum distance between a driveway and the intersecting street from 50 feet to 30 feet. So their driveway's too close to an intersection. That's an engineering requirement. And that makes it really, really hard to develop many, many, many things in the older parts of the city because we had lots of driveways close to the intersections. That happens all the time on Central and Broadway. And then the other variance they asked for, decrease the minimum aisle width from 26 feet for two-way traffic to 21 feet, 8 inches. So apparently the aisle width in this parking lot is 21 feet, 8 inches, but the new code is 26 feet. So they would lose probably an entire aisle and the majority of their parking to do that. So then if you still required them to have the parking that's required, then they just have to buy something next door and demolish it or get some kind of a parking agreement and create a whole new parking lot. That's another frequent thing that happens around Broadway, Central, some of the older parts of town. You can't meet the required parking need. You either go to variance, you get a zoning change to get DKE if you're close enough, or in the old days it was C4, I don't remember what it was, something. Other zoning you could get, or you just buy the property next door, demolish that, and there's your new parking. So anyway, that costs you money too. Lots of people can't afford to do that, and we don't really want them to tear down the density.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. One more question. Parking minimums play a factor in this as well, right? And I think similar to the change of use ordinance, was parking minimums evaluated as part of this dynamic?
Not part of this proposal.
Okay.
Those
all
were
right.
evaluated back in 17, and many of them were reduced.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries 8-0-1. One abstention. Okay?
12D is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code Appendix B zoning code at Articles 12.5 and 12.6, parking lot perimeter landscape yard and interior parking lot landscape yard, to provide language that is consistent with the proposed changes to Article 11.1, off-street parking, and to correct section number references to correspond with the proposed changes to Article 11.1, City of Knoxville applicant to all districts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Oh, speaker is available for questions. Taylor Forrester. Oh, wait. Oh, Ms. Feld, did you want to speak on 12D? No. Okay. Okay, no one signed up to, there's no further people signed up to speak to this. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
12E is an ordinance. 12E is an ordinance to close Opal Avenue between its intersections with Gore Road and its eastern terminus, and authorizing the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to the adjacent property owners, Cherokee Country Club applicant, 2nd District.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12F is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 0 Central Avenue Pike from AG District to RN6 District, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. Crescent Bend Development LLC applicant, 5th District.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, Mayor, I have a few comments to make and kind of to put this in context for council. This development, I think, has the opportunity and promise of checking a lot of the boxes that we try to do with certain developments. I really did appreciate developer Paul Murphy and his attorney, Mr. Forrester, reaching out even before it went to the Planning Commission. So we've had a lot of opportunities to discuss through this, and I think it made it a better project, and also we were able to cooperate. So I want to thank you for that. This is 91 acres, and over half of it is in hillside protection. So they can't develop all of it, but they will be able to provide a lot of housing units to satisfy the need for housing. It'll be done in increments. The first plan will be about 200 units, and then maybe more to follow. But also, as part of the discussion, the developer is open to the proposal and plans to also build a number of single-family type residences, townhouses of a sort, so it won't all be multi-units. So you've checked in a couple of boxes there. And there will be added traffic, of course, because of this, but the position of this particular development is between Callahan Drive and Merchants Road, so it will be alleviated somewhat by having that easier access to the interstate. So although there will be an increase in some traffic, it won't be as much as it were if it were other locations. They also plan to reach out to make this workforce housing. So that box will be checked, if I may use that comparison. And then last but not least, we've also, like we were in an earlier development on Merchants Road, we're in discussions with Legacy Parks, and there are 17 acres of land there that's contiguous in one block. And the plan is to make that available for public use. The idea is for Legacy Parks to acquire it and then possibly turn it over to the city or some other way in which you would have public access. We've already looked at the entrance and how the entrance to this proposed public access space would connect with the driveway that would be harmonious with the housing. And then I guess one other point is that a lot of the hillside protection terrain is kind of interspersed within this 90 acres. So you wouldn't have a solid area that was nothing but housing, and you would have natural areas that were part of the whole ambiance, I guess you might say, apart from the 17 acres. So appreciate, this was really good experience working with the developers. We started early, had a lot of good discussions, and I think it's going to be a good development for the city, and hope my colleagues approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12G is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 0 Sherrill Boulevard and a portion of property located at 517 Frank Gardner Lane from CG2 District to O District Land Development Solutions Applicant 2nd District.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Council members, there's one person signed up to speak at public forum. Constance Every. Ms. Every, you have up to 5 minutes.
Constance Every, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37914. Point of order, because they be walking out during public forum, and she was not excused appropriately from this council, so just calling that out. I stand here and speak in the presence of ancestor Oscar Dunn. We are in a spiritual warfare in Knoxville. It is appalling to watch you all stand here and give an ovation to God and then do some of the most evilest anti-black, anti-poor policy I've seen in this city's record. Today, I thought it was tragic to watch the celebration of stolen black land and the erasing of black history. Y'all don't tell the stories about how Austin Holmes was really a working black class community. They don't talk about that part. They only talk about when it became a project. But see, these are the valuable stories that you're missing because you're not talking to the 97 and the 92-year-old community members that still live in Knoxville. And so this is why it continues to be frustrating as well, because we're still not getting our needs met. We are still not spending money towards the 47% poverty rate, which is directly impacting the gun violence that is rampant in our community, so rampant that now even West Knoxville cannot hide their gun violence issue either with the recent murder of the young lady at a traffic light. Yeah, look it up. It was a baby in the back seat who witnessed the whole thing herself when a baby saw that. So look it up. It's real. So don't make the goofy faces when I'm calling out the facts, because this is the reality of our community. And I sit here and watch you once again give money to this issue, money to that issue, money for this. And all we asked for the last time we was here was $50,000 to start a pilot program for an alternative response, so that people with mental health and medical crises don't have to be traumatized by the presence of our police department that has a history of brutality and violence in our community too. And so again, Knoxville voters, are you paying attention? This is an election cycle. We are in election season. We do not have to continue to accept the subpar and shortcomings of the administration any longer. I also found two things today that Randy Boyd said very disturbing, very disturbing. The first one was that he was setting an initiative for Knoxville to be the #1 dog park city in America. The classical part, he has achieved such initiative. And I thought, how sad. Knoxville could have been the #1 in public health response. Knoxville could have been the #1 in public transportation. Knoxville could have been #1 in zero waste and energy efficiency. But Knoxville is #1 for dog parks. Do you feel proud of yourself yet, administration? Do you feel honored to hold such titles? The second thing that Randy Boyd said I found disturbing, he said that being the university president of University of Tennessee was a side job. Well, you gotta make a lot of money. It's called being a president of a prestige university of SEC conference, University of Tennessee, a side job. And so then I start getting even more concerned because we know that there's been manipulation by wealth dollars in Knoxville. And so then I started asking myself, why would Randy Boyd say that his initiative for Knoxville was to be the #1 dog park city when India is the mayor of Knoxville? So help me understand, India, who is the mayor? You or Randy? Because I really can't tell these days. He gets what he wants for every development that he brings up here for him and his friends. And what he admitted today sounds like to me, he tells you what to do too. That's called puppeteering to the finest form. And so I leave you with this thought, Knoxville, as we get to election season. Understand, real leaders are okay with saying no. Real leaders are okay with prioritizing the needs of the people over the wealth agenda. Real leaders are okay to stand up and say the necessary things out loud. This is called courage. It's hard to do what I do. It's hard to do what Amelia do. It's hard to do what Calvin do. It's hard to be the voice of opposition when people run around and live delusionally, especially behind a such thing known as Jesus Christ and God. I cannot say enough. This city is psychotic and delusional. And for the last time, Knoxville, if you are serious about change, especially black people, I am offering you independence and real freedom from the strongholds of white supremacy and racism in this city once and for all. Then let's make it clear. Vote Constance Every. I yield my time.
That concludes public forum. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.